Thus Spoke Zarathustra is a philosophical novel written by the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. It was published in 4 parts between 1883 and 1885. The book is considered one of Nietzsche's most significant and influential works. Thus Spoke Zarathustra presents a fictional narrative centered around the character Zarathustra, who is a prophet-like figure. The book is structured as a series of speeches and dialogues, through which Nietzsche presents his philosophical ideas and critiques of traditional morality, religion, and society. The central theme of the book is the concept of the Übermensch or the Overman, which Nietzsche sees as the next stage in human evolution. The Overman is an individual who transcends conventional values and morality, embraces life's challenges, and creates their own values. Zarathustra serves as a mouthpiece for Nietzsche's exploration of this concept, as he delivers his teachings and encounters various characters who represent different aspects of human nature. Nietzsche also discusses the idea of the eternal recurrence, which suggests that all events in the universe recur infinitely. This concept challenges individuals to affirm life and live in a way that they would be willing to relive every moment of their existence. Thus Spoke Zarathustra is known for its poetic and aphoristic writing style, with Nietzsche's use of allegory, metaphors, and provocative language. The book covers a wide range of topics, including the will to power, the death of God, the nature of truth, the nature of suffering, and the importance of self-overcoming. Although Thus Spoke Zarathustra received mixed reviews upon its initial publication, it gained significant recognition and influence in the following years. It has been interpreted and analyzed by philosophers, scholars, and literary critics, and it continues to be a significant work in the field of philosophy and existential thought. The beginning of Thus Spoke Zarathustra sets the stage for the rest of the book and introduces the character of Zarathustra. The book opens with Zarathustra, who has spent 10 years in solitude in the mountains, finally deciding to descend and share his wisdom with humanity. Zarathustra is portrayed as a wise and enigmatic figure, a self-proclaimed free spirit who has detached himself from the conventional values and beliefs of society. He is described as having a long white beard and a strong physical presence, exuding an aura of power and authority. As Zarathustra descends from the mountains, he encounters a number of people along the way, engaging them in conversations and imparting his teachings. These encounters serve as a vehicle for Nietzsche to explore his philosophical ideas and critique various aspects of human existence. Zarathustra's character is complex and multifaceted. He is depicted as a prophet and a visionary, driven by a deep sense of purpose and a desire to elevate humanity. However, he is also plagued by moments of doubt, loneliness, and existential crisis. Throughout the book, Zarathustra grapples with the challenges of conveying his radical ideas to a world that may not be ready to accept them. Zarathustra's teachings revolve around the concept of the Übermensch or the Overman. He encourages individuals to embrace their own individuality, transcend societal norms and values, and create their own meaningful existence. He challenges the traditional moral and religious frameworks, urging people to question and reevaluate their beliefs. Overall, Zarathustra embodies Nietzsche's philosophical ideals and serves as a vessel for Nietzsche to explore his ideas about the nature of human existence, morality, and the pursuit of a meaningful life. Here are some of the key themes. Critique of morality. Nietzsche criticizes traditional morality, particularly the morality based on Judeo-Christian values. One dialogue in the book where Nietzsche criticizes traditional morality is the conversation between Zarathustra and the character of the priest in the chapter titled On the Priests. In this dialogue, Nietzsche challenges the conventional moral values propagated by the priest. Here's an overview of the dialogue. Zarathustra encounters the priest, who represents the embodiment of traditional morality and religious authority. The priest, who is depicted as a symbol of asceticism and self-denial, engages in a conversation with Zarathustra. Zarathustra begins by questioning the motives behind the priest's moral teachings. He accuses the priest of promoting a morality that suppresses and represses human desires and instincts, leading to a denial of life's joys and pleasures. Zarathustra argues that such an approach negates the fullness and vitality of human existence. Zarathustra criticizes the priest's emphasis on self-sacrifice and suffering as a means of attaining virtue and moral righteousness. He suggests that this attitude leads to the suppression of individual desires and a rejection of life's natural instincts. Zarathustra asserts that true morality should not be founded on self-denial but on embracing and affirming life in its entirety. Moreover, Zarathustra challenges the priest's notion of sin and guilt. He argues that these concepts are products of a repressive moral system that stifles individual freedom and self-expression. Zarathustra proposes that individuals should transcend the burdensome weight of guilt and instead embrace the notion of self-overcoming and self-affirmation. Throughout the dialogue, Zarathustra presents an alternative perspective that promotes the affirmation of life, the pursuit of individual desires, and the rejection of traditional moral codes that inhibit human potential. He criticizes the priest's moral teachings as limiting and oppressive, advocating for a new morality based on individual freedom and the creative power of the self. This dialogue exemplifies Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality, particularly the ascetic values and self-denial propagated by religious authorities. Zarathustra challenges the moral framework promoted by the priest, questioning its validity and calling for a re-evaluation of values that embraces life, individual desires, and self-affirmation. Critique of religion. Nietzsche is highly critical of organized religion, viewing it as a tool of oppression and a source of nihilism. He famously proclaims, "God is dead," meaning that traditional religious beliefs and values no longer hold sway in modern society. Nietzsche questions the belief in an afterlife and the focus on eternity as a form of escape from the present. Zarathustra urges individuals to live in the present moment and embrace life's challenges rather than seeking solace in the hope of an afterlife. He promotes the idea of eternal recurrence, where individuals affirm every moment of their lives, embracing the finite and transient nature of existence. One dialogue in Thus Spoke Zarathustra where Nietzsche criticizes religion is the conversation between Zarathustra and the character of the ugliest man in the chapter titled The Ugliest Man. In this dialogue, Nietzsche challenges the religious beliefs and dogmas that have dominated society. Here's an overview of the dialogue. Zarathustra encounters the ugliest man, who is depicted as a representative of the masses and their adherence to religious doctrines. The ugliest man, consumed by guilt and self-flagellation, engages in a conversation with Zarathustra. Zarathustra begins by questioning the motivations behind the man's religious fervor and self-punishment. He criticizes the notion of sin and guilt promoted by religion, arguing that they serve to suppress individual desires and instill a sense of unworthiness. Zarathustra challenges the man's belief in a punishing and vengeful God, suggesting that such a concept is born out of fear and resentment rather than a true understanding of divine nature. He asserts that the idea of a wrathful God serves as a tool of control and manipulation by religious authorities. Moreover, Zarathustra criticizes the man's tendency to seek redemption and salvation through external means, such as religious rituals and practices. He argues that true liberation and self-realization can only be achieved by looking inward and embracing one's own creative power. Throughout the dialogue, Zarathustra presents an alternative perspective that questions the validity of religious doctrines and their impact on individuals' lives. He encourages the ugliest man to break free from the limitations imposed by religious dogmas and instead embrace the freedom to shape his own destiny. This dialogue highlights Nietzsche's critique of religion, particularly its role in promoting guilt, fear, and external dependency. Zarathustra challenges the man's religious beliefs and encourages him to seek liberation from oppressive religious constructs. Nietzsche advocates for a more individualistic and self-reliant approach to spirituality, where individuals take responsibility for their own lives and find meaning and fulfillment from within rather than relying on external religious authorities. Critique of pity and compassion. Nietzsche challenges the virtue of pity and excessive compassion. One dialogue in Thus Spoke Zarathustra where Nietzsche challenges the virtue of pity and excessive compassion is the conversation between Zarathustra and the character of the saint in the chapter titled On the Tarantulas. In this dialogue, Nietzsche critiques the prevalent notion of pity and its negative consequences. Here's an overview of the dialogue. Zarathustra encounters the saint, who represents the embodiment of compassion and the virtue of pity. The saint, known for his selflessness and dedication to helping others, engages in a conversation with Zarathustra. Zarathustra begins by questioning the saint's belief in the inherent goodness of pity. He argues that excessive compassion can be harmful and detrimental to the individual and society. Zarathustra suggests that pity often perpetuates weakness and fosters dependency rather than promoting personal growth and strength. Zarathustra criticizes the saint's inclination to sacrifice oneself for the sake of others. He challenges the idea that self-sacrifice is a virtue, asserting that it diminishes the value of the individual and suppresses the natural will to power. Zarathustra promotes the idea of self-overcoming and the pursuit of individual greatness rather than selfless acts of pity. Moreover, Zarathustra challenges the saint's view of suffering as noble and redemptive. He argues that excessive compassion often prolongs and perpetuates suffering rather than alleviating it. Zarathustra encourages a shift in perspective that embraces the affirmative aspects of life and focuses on personal growth and self-realization. Throughout the dialogue, Zarathustra presents an alternative perspective that questions the prevailing notions of pity and excessive compassion. He challenges the saint's self-sacrificial ideals and promotes a more self-centered approach to personal growth and empowerment. Zarathustra suggests that individuals should prioritize their own well-being and growth rather than devoting themselves entirely to the suffering of others. This dialogue exemplifies Nietzsche's critique of pity and excessive compassion, particularly the notion that these virtues can be detrimental and foster weakness rather than strength. Zarathustra challenges the saint's self-sacrificial ideals and encourages individuals to prioritize their own growth and self-realization. Nietzsche advocates for a shift in perspective that values personal greatness and the affirmation of life over excessive acts of pity and selflessness. Critique of equality and democracy. Nietzsche criticizes the concept of the herd mentality, where individuals conform to societal norms and seek safety in mediocrity. One dialogue in Thus Spoke Zarathustra where Nietzsche criticizes equality and democracy is the conversation between Zarathustra and the character of the king in the chapter titled The Flies in the Marketplace. In this dialogue, Nietzsche challenges the prevailing notions of equality and democratic ideals. Here's an overview of the dialogue. Zarathustra encounters the king, who represents the embodiment of democratic ideals and the pursuit of equality. The king, surrounded by a crowd of followers, engages in a conversation with Zarathustra. Zarathustra begins by questioning the king's belief in the absolute equality of all individuals. He argues that the concept of universal equality is flawed and goes against the natural order of things. Zarathustra suggests that individuals are inherently different and possess unique qualities that cannot be leveled by enforcing equality. Zarathustra criticizes the idea that democracy is the ideal political system, emphasizing that it often leads to mediocrity and the suppression of exceptional individuals. He challenges the notion that everyone should have an equal say in matters of governance, asserting that some individuals possess greater wisdom and insight than others. Moreover, Zarathustra criticizes the king's reliance on the opinions and judgments of the crowd. He argues that the crowd, driven by mediocrity and conformity, tends to hinder progress and stifle the emergence of exceptional individuals. Zarathustra advocates for a more hierarchical society, where the exceptional few are allowed to flourish and lead. Throughout the dialogue, Zarathustra presents an alternative perspective that questions the unquestioned praise for equality and democracy. He challenges the king's democratic ideals and encourages a re-evaluation of values that acknowledges the natural inequalities among individuals. Zarathustra argues for a society that values excellence, individual differences, and the leadership of the exceptional few. This dialogue exemplifies Nietzsche's critique of equality and democracy, particularly the notion of universal equality and the emphasis on the wisdom of the masses. Zarathustra challenges these ideals, suggesting that they lead to mediocrity and hinder the development of exceptional individuals. Nietzsche advocates for a society that embraces natural inequalities and allows for the flourishing of exceptional individuals who can lead and bring about progress. Critique of truth and knowledge. Nietzsche challenges the idea of objective truth and suggests that truth is a product of interpretation. Zarathustra critiques the pursuit of absolute knowledge, arguing that it is an illusion. He suggests that perspectivism allows for a richer and more diverse understanding of the world. One dialogue in Thus Spoke Zarathustra where Nietzsche criticizes truth and knowledge is the conversation between Zarathustra and the character of the scholar in the chapter titled On the Scholars. In this dialogue, Nietzsche challenges the traditional notions of truth and the pursuit of knowledge. Here's an overview of the dialogue. Zarathustra encounters the scholar, who represents the embodiment of intellectual pursuit and the quest for knowledge. The scholar, consumed by his academic pursuits, engages in a conversation with Zarathustra. Zarathustra begins by questioning the scholar's belief in the absolute truth and the idea that knowledge can provide ultimate answers. He argues that truth is a subjective construct and that individuals interpret the world based on their own perspectives and biases. Zarathustra suggests that the pursuit of absolute truth is a futile endeavor. Zarathustra criticizes the scholar's reliance on intellectualism and the accumulation of knowledge as a means of understanding the world. He suggests that knowledge alone does not lead to wisdom or genuine insight. Zarathustra emphasizes the importance of intuition and the experiential aspect of knowledge. Moreover, Zarathustra challenges the scholar's detachment from life and the physical world. He criticizes the scholar's tendency to prioritize abstract ideas and intellectual pursuits over the richness of lived experiences. Zarathustra argues that true understanding and wisdom come from engaging with life and embracing the complexities of existence. Throughout the dialogue, Zarathustra presents an alternative perspective that questions the unquestioned pursuit of truth and the reliance on knowledge. He challenges the scholar's intellectualism and encourages a more holistic approach to understanding the world. Zarathustra advocates for a deeper connection with lived experiences and a recognition of the limitations of intellectual pursuits. This dialogue exemplifies Nietzsche's critique of truth and knowledge, particularly the idea of absolute truth and the sole reliance on intellectualism. Zarathustra challenges these notions, suggesting that truth is subjective and that knowledge alone is insufficient for genuine understanding. Nietzsche advocates for a more experiential and intuitive approach to knowledge that embraces the complexities of life and the limitations of human understanding. These examples demonstrate Nietzsche's critique of truth and knowledge, as he challenges the notion of absolute truth and the pursuit of knowledge as an end in itself. Zarathustra encourages individuals to embrace their own perspectives, interpretive frameworks, and the creative power of their own knowledge. He promotes a more individualistic and experiential approach to knowledge, rooted in personal interpretation and the assertion of one's will to power. These critiques reflect Nietzsche's desire to break away from conventional systems of morality, religion, and societal norms. He seeks to promote individual freedom, self-overcoming, and the pursuit of a higher form of existence, embodied by the Übermensch. Through his character Zarathustra, Nietzsche explores these ideas and provokes readers to question and reevaluate their own beliefs and values. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman, is a central idea in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Here are a few examples from the book where he presents the idea of the Overman. The evolution of humanity. Zarathustra introduces the idea of the Overman as the next stage in the evolution of humanity. He envisions the Overman as a higher form of existence that transcends the limitations of ordinary human beings. Zarathustra proclaims that man is something that shall be overcome, urging individuals to strive for self-transcendence and embrace their potential to become the Overman. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche introduces the idea of the evolution of humanity in various sections of the book. One notable section is in Part 1, specifically in the prologue, where Zarathustra addresses the crowd gathered in the marketplace. Here, Nietzsche presents the concept of the evolution of humanity through the character of Zarathustra. In the prologue, Zarathustra announces his return from solitude and the mountains to share his wisdom and insights with humanity. He declares that humanity is a bridge between the animal and the Overman, emphasizing the idea of evolution and progression. Zarathustra refers to humanity as a rope stretched between the animal and the Overman and proclaims that I teach you the Overman. Zarathustra presents himself as a herald of the coming evolution, encouraging individuals to strive for self-transcendence and the realization of their full potential. He challenges conventional thinking and moral values, calling for a reevaluation and transvaluation of existing norms and beliefs. Zarathustra aims to guide humanity towards the next stage of its development, the Overman, who represents a higher and more evolved form of existence. Throughout the book, Nietzsche continues to develop the concept of the evolution of humanity, highlighting the importance of self-overcoming, the affirmation of individuality, and the creation of new values. He presents the evolution of humanity as a process of liberation and empowerment, where individuals strive to transcend their limitations and embrace their own unique potentials. This section of the book sets the foundation for Nietzsche's exploration of the evolution of humanity, as Zarathustra emerges as a prophet and guide, urging individuals to strive for self-transcendence and embrace the possibilities of a higher form of existence, the Overman. Self-overcoming. Nietzsche emphasizes the importance of self-overcoming as a means of achieving the status of the Overman. Zarathustra encourages individuals to overcome their weaknesses, fears, and societal constraints in order to realize their full potential. He views self-overcoming as a transformative process that leads to the emergence of the Overman. One notable section where self-overcoming is discussed is in Part 3, specifically in the chapter titled The Convalescent. In this chapter, Zarathustra encounters a character who has been sick and is now on the path to recovery. Zarathustra engages in a conversation with the convalescent, sharing his teachings and insights on self-overcoming. Zarathustra emphasizes the importance of self-overcoming as a transformative process that allows individuals to transcend their current limitations and strive for a higher form of existence. He encourages the convalescent to overcome his weaknesses, fears, and societal constraints in order to realize his full potential. Zarathustra sees self-overcoming as a path towards personal growth and liberation. Throughout the conversation, Zarathustra challenges the convalescent to embrace discomfort and adversity, as they are necessary for self-overcoming. He suggests that individuals should not shy away from struggle but rather embrace it as an opportunity for growth and self-realization. Zarathustra promotes the idea of continually surpassing oneself and pushing beyond one's boundaries. The concept of self-overcoming is not limited to physical or external challenges but also extends to the realm of the mind and spirit. Zarathustra encourages the convalescent to overcome his limiting beliefs and societal conditioning, urging him to create his own values and meanings. self-overcoming involves a constant process of reassessing and reevaluating one's perspectives and values in order to continually evolve and grow. In this chapter and throughout the book, Nietzsche presents self-overcoming as a fundamental aspect of human existence. It is a call to individuals to strive for personal excellence, embrace their own uniqueness, and transcend the limitations that hold them back. The idea of self-overcoming is intertwined with Nietzsche's broader exploration of the evolution of humanity and the realization of the Overman. Embracing individuality, the idea of the Overman is closely tied to the affirmation of individuality. Zarathustra encourages individuals to embrace their own unique characteristics, desires, and creative powers. The Overman is not bound by societal norms or values, but rather creates their own values based on their individual will to power. Nietzsche explores the theme of embracing individuality as a means of personal growth and self-realization. One section where Nietzsche addresses the importance of embracing individuality is in Part 2, specifically in the chapter titled The Despisers of the Body. In this chapter, Zarathustra encounters a group of ascetics who despise the physical body and seek to transcend their earthly existence. Zarathustra engages in a dialogue with them, challenging their beliefs and encouraging them to embrace their individuality. Zarathustra criticizes the ascetics for their denial of the body and their rejection of earthly pleasures. He argues that embracing the physical body and its desires is not a hindrance to spiritual growth, but rather an integral part of it. Zarathustra encourages the ascetics to see themselves as unique individuals with their own desires and passions, urging them to embrace their individual nature. Throughout the conversation, Zarathustra emphasizes the importance of self-affirmation and self-expression. He promotes the idea that each individual has a unique path to follow, and it is through embracing one's individuality that true self-realization is achieved. Zarathustra challenges the ascetics to move beyond their denial of the body and instead engage with life fully, embracing their desires and passions. The concept of embracing individuality extends beyond mere self-expression. Nietzsche encourages individuals to recognize their own worth and value, independent of societal expectations or norms. Zarathustra advocates for a rejection of conformity and the embrace of one's own uniqueness, asserting that true greatness can only be achieved by being true to oneself. Throughout the book, Nietzsche emphasizes the transformative power of embracing individuality. He encourages individuals to break free from the constraints of societal conventions and embrace their own desires, passions, and creative potentials. Embracing individuality is seen as a key aspect of self-overcoming and the realization of one's full potential as an individual. In summary, Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra urges individuals to embrace their individuality as a means of personal growth, self-realization, and the pursuit of greatness. Zarathustra challenges societal norms and expectations, encouraging individuals to recognize their unique worth and follow their own path, free from the constraints of conformity. Embracing individuality is seen as an essential step towards self-actualization and the fulfillment of one's potential. Transvaluation of values. Zarathustra presents the concept of the Overman as a challenge to prevailing moral values. The Overman is free from the constraints of conventional morality and creates their own values that are in alignment with their individual nature. One notable section where Nietzsche discusses the transvaluation of values is in Part 3, specifically in the chapter titled The Spirit of Gravity. In this chapter, Zarathustra encounters a spirit that represents the weight of traditional values and moral frameworks. Zarathustra engages in a dialogue with the spirit, challenging the established values and advocating for a reevaluation and transvaluation of these values. Zarathustra criticizes the spirit of gravity and the weight it imposes on humanity, stifling individual creativity and growth. He calls for a reevaluation of traditional moral values and a shift in perspective. Zarathustra suggests that individuals should question the foundations of existing values, recognizing that they are not inherently true or absolute. Throughout the conversation, Zarathustra encourages the spirit and others to engage in the transvaluation of values, which involves reassessing and redefining the moral framework based on one's own individual aspirations and experiences. He promotes the idea that values are not fixed but can be transformed and reconstructed according to the will to power of the individual. The transvaluation of values allows individuals to break free from the limitations imposed by societal conventions and embrace their own unique vision of what is valuable and meaningful. Becoming the creator, Zarathustra encourages individuals to become creators of their own destiny and to shape the world according to their own visions. The Overman is a visionary who is able to transcend societal norms and conventions, forging a path towards a new and more meaningful existence. One notable section where Nietzsche discusses becoming the creator is in Part 1, specifically in the chapter titled On the New Idol. In this chapter, Zarathustra speaks about the need to overcome societal influences and the conventional notions of worshipping idols. He encourages individuals to embrace their own creative power and become the creators of their own destiny. He challenges the idea of blindly following external authorities and urges individuals to break free from these influences. Zarathustra presents the concept of becoming the creator as a means of asserting one's individuality and shaping the world according to one's own vision. Throughout the book, Nietzsche emphasizes the importance of creative power and the act of creation. Zarathustra encourages individuals to become active participants in their own lives, taking responsibility for their choices and actions. He promotes the idea that individuals have the capacity to shape their own destinies and create their own values. The concept of becoming the creator goes beyond simply accepting the world as it is. Zarathustra urges individuals to go beyond passive acceptance and actively engage in the process of creation. This involves embracing one's own desires, passions, and unique perspectives, and actively shaping the world based on one's individual will to power. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche presents becoming the creator as a transformative and empowering process. It involves breaking free from societal conventions and external authorities, and instead, embracing one's own creative power to shape one's own life and values. Zarathustra encourages individuals to take an active role in their own self-creation, becoming the creators of their own destinies. In summary, becoming the creator is a central theme in Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Zarathustra urges individuals to embrace their own creative power and actively shape their lives and values. This process involves breaking free from external influences and societal conventions, and instead, asserting one's individuality and vision. Becoming the creator is seen as a means of personal empowerment and the realization of one's own unique potential.